A civilization so advanced it rivaled the future. A people blessed by the gods. And then, obliteration. In a single day and night, vanished beneath the waves. But did it ever exist? Welcome to an episode of The Forbidden Records. In today's episode, we're diving headfirst and exploring the story of Atlantis, the ultimate sunken empire. A tale stretching across myth, history, science, and obsession. From ancient scrolls to ocean floors. From philosophers to prophets. From facts to fiction. Atlantis holds secrets that we're still trying to decode. So in order for us to understand Atlantis, we have to go back, not to the ocean, but to ancient Greece, specifically to the mind of one of the greatest philosophers, Plato. Around 360 BCE, Plato writes Timaeus and Critias, two philosophical texts framed as dialogues among the Athenian statesmen. It talks of the reasoning on the possible nature of the physical world and human beings. And in them, Plato describes a vast, sophisticated island nation called Atlantis, said to have existed 9,000 years earlier. Atlantis is presented as real history, told by Egyptian priests to the Athenian lawmaker Solon, who then passed it on to Plato's ancestor, Critias. In Timaeus, the priest tells Solon, "You Greeks are but children. You have no ancient traditions and no knowledge of antiquity." Now, Atlantis is described as an enormous city. It was supposedly larger than Libya and Asia combined. The island supposedly lay beyond the Pillars of Hercules, which is believed, in current time, to be the Straits of Gibraltar. The city of Atlantis was built in concentric circles of water and land, connected by wide canals and bridges with massive citadel in the center. Now, the citadel is a grand temple dedicated to the Greek god of sea, earthquakes, storms, and horses, Poseidon, and built entirely from gleaming white, black, and red stones. Now, we will dive into the Greek mythologies more in a future episode, but the city, it was rich in natural resources like forests, elephants, hot springs, and orichalcum, a rare metal second only in comparison to gold. Now, like many cities and kingdoms in the past, Atlantis was also ruled by kings. 10 kings, to be precise. The 10 kings were descendants of Poseidon and a mortal woman named Plato. The civilization was highly structured, peaceful, and law-abiding at first. But according to Plato, the people grew greedy, arrogant, and lustful for power. And when the divine portion began to fade, they became filled with lawless ambition. The gods punished Atlantis and the people for this by unleashing earthquakes and floods, and overnight, Atlantis was swallowed by the sea. So was this a moral fable, warning against being hubris, or a historical memory of something real? This lost city has sparked debates for centuries between historians around the question, was Atlantis ever real? Most classical scholars agree with Plato's Atlantis being an allegory and it being a myth. Say, in Republic, Plato constructs an ideal city, so it's likely that Atlantis was the dystopian counterpart, an example of a civilization that gets destroyed by moral corruption to show the consequences of greed, arrogance, and lust. Now, this is because Plato was a philosopher that was known for his teachings through metaphors by using fictional cities and dialogues to explore different philosophical themes. And then we have the more historical side of theories, believed in more of the realistic sides of things. That Atlantis may not have been a geographical reality, but psychological and ethical one. Some believe that Plato may have actually been based on a tale of real events that were passed down via Egyptian records. In Timaeus, Solon supposedly learned of Atlantis while visiting Egypt, which is home to one of the oldest and most literate civilizations on Earth. And even Aristotle, Plato's own student, was a skeptic, believing that he who invented Atlantis also destroyed it. And yet, despite everything, the story survived for over 2 millennia and took on a life of its own. Now let's talk about some of the theories surrounding Atlantis. The first theory is the Minoan civilization and the Thera eruption. So this theory claims that the most compelling real-world parallel to the tale of Atlantis is the Minoan civilization on Crete and the nearby island of Thera, which we now know as the beautiful vacation spot Santorini. The Minoans were advanced in engineering, trades, and the arts. They developed multi-storied buildings, plumbings, and powerful naval fleets in a time that would have been unfamiliar and impossible. And around 1600 BCE, the Thera volcano erupted and caused what was potentially the largest eruption in human history. It triggered tsunamis that devastated coastal cities across the Aegean Sea, ash clouds that disrupted agriculture and trades, which would eventually lead to the collapse of the Minoan Minoan civilization that soon followed. Now, some believe that the tale of Atlantis was just Plato's retelling of the Minoan disaster that had been methodolized over time as it was passed down. Now, the second theory believes that Atlantis was real and shortlisted geographical candidates based on the information and knowledge known about Atlantis, hunting for Atlantis on land, sea, and sky for traces of this lost city. In Spain, the Dona Ana marshes had satellite images that show ancient ruins near Cadiz, ruins of what seemed to be an ancient submerged wall with a ring-shaped layout, like Atlantis supposedly has, was found in the area along with evidence of massive tsunamis that some theories believed was what wiped out the city of Atlantis, along with the island off the coast of Lanzarote in the Canary Islands, according to some researchers, could potentially be the remnants of the Atlantis myth. Now, in Mauritania, we have the Richat Structure, a geological structure believed by some to be the lost city of Atlantis. Rings that resemble Plato's description of Atlantis. The Richat Structure is also big enough to be visible from space, and the size is also closely resembled to what was described by Plato as being an enormous city, as well as the mountains near it that is related to the Atlantean king, Atlas, that further supports the theory. And lastly, the salt deposit in the area indicates the presence of sea within the area. Now, if we look at Azores, which is a submerged plateau in the mid-Atlantic Ocean, a region that has experienced significant vertical movement due to its position on the mid-Atlantic ridges. Now, this could explain how a larger landmass could have sunk, leaving behind the current archipelago of islands. Now, the Azores also houses 9 volcanoes and is rich in natural resources, just like Atlantis was said to be. They had hot springs, fertile valleys, and volcanic activity. Now, the native legend among the islanders on Azores talks of local legends and oral traditions that align with evidence of a lost civilization. And there are also circulated evidence on Quora articles that claims underwater structures, including what appeared to be a pyramid near the Azores. In the Caribbean and the Bahamas, the Bimini Road showed submerged rock formations near the Bahamas that are claimed to be Atlantean ruins. Discovered in 1968 with the location, and if you've seen the previous episode on the Bermuda Triangle, you would realize that the Bimini Road is actually located in the Bermuda Triangle, which was also theorized to be a potential location of this lost sunken city. Now, Bimini was also described to have a sort of aura that attracted trading to happen, though illegally, like drug smugglers using it as a drop-off point, or in the olden days, a popular spot for liquor smuggling. Though the location of the Bimini Road does not align with Plato's description of it being in the Atlantic Ocean and near the Straits of Gibraltar, and radiocarbon dating of collected samples of these rocks showed that they were only 2,000 to 4,000 years old, while Plato claimed that it existed 10,000 years before he wrote Timaeus and Critias around 360 BCE. And now if we look at the Antarctica, there are some pseudoscientists that suggest that Atlantis actually lies beneath the ice, citing maps like Peri Reyes as evidence. Geological evidence indicates that Antarctica was once much warmer than it is today, with tropical or temperate climates, and some have used this fact to link Antarctica to the Atlantis myth, suggesting that the advanced civilization existed there before the continent became covered in ice. Some proponents of the Antarctica Atlantis theory point to Peri Reyes' map, an ancient map that appears to show the coastlines of Antarctica before it was covered in ice as evidence. However, the map's accuracy and interpretations are debated, and it is not considered definitive proof. But regardless of which theory they believe in, no consensus has ever been reached. Some theories are backed by geological proof, while others remain unverified or misinterpreted. Now, the third theory of Atlantis is the esoteric Atlantis theory. First, we have a Russian writer and mystic named Madame Blavatsky that moved to the United States and co-founded the Theosophical Society in 1875, who claimed that Atlantis was the home of a spiritually advanced root of race, known as the fourth root race of humanity out of the 7. She described the Atlanteans to possess supernatural powers and psychic abilities, and the misuse of their powers led to internal warfare, which rippled into the demise and the submergence of the city. Her readings show that some Atlanteans actually survived and later influenced the development of civilizations in Egypt and the Americas, as well as other regions. Now, another psychic that did a reading on Atlantis is Edgar Cayce, also known as the Sleeping Prophet, an American clairvoyant that claimed in his psychic readings that delved into the legend of Atlantis that Atlantis was real and was an advanced civilization long ago. He described Atlantis as a technologically advanced society with flying machines and energy crystals that met their demise due to their own misuse of their technology. Like Madame Blavatsky, his readings also saw some Atlanteans that migrated to other parts of the world, like ancient Egypt and the Yucatan Peninsula, before the final catastrophic event, and that the knowledge of Atlantis were hidden in the Hall of Records near the Great Sphinx of Giza. He also predicted that Atlantis would reappear near Bimini in 68 or 69, and of course, like mentioned earlier, Bimini Road was discovered in 1968. So these ideas and theories spark New Age beliefs that connect Atlantis to Lemuria, ancient aliens, and psychic awakenings. Now, they may be unscientific, but they reflect humanity's desire to reconnect with the lost golden age in human history. Now, if we take a look at Atlantis' influence in pop culture, we realize that Atlantis isn't just a myth, but more of a cultural archetype. See, Disney made a movie about Atlantis, the Lost Empire in 2001, which blended the themes of steampunk with ancient mythology. It follows a young linguist, Milo Thatch, who came into possession of a sacred book that he believes will lead him and his crew of intrepid explorers to the lost island of Atlantis. Then we have Aquaman by DC Comics and the movies starring Jason Momoa and Amber Heard. It talks of a man named Arthur Curry, who is the son of the Atlantean queen and a lighthouse keeper, making him half human and half Atlantean. Having the blood of the royal Atlantean bloodline gave him various powers like super strength, telepathic control of marine life, and the ability to live both on land and in water. And he eventually takes the throne as the king of Atlantis. And then there's TV series like Stargate Atlantis, made in 2004, which funnily enough, Jason Momoa is in, but not as a king, but as a member of the Atlantis expedition team. Now, the expedition team, which comprises of a group of scientists and military team led by Colonel John Shepard, embarks on an adventure to investigate the location of what one doctor discovered to be the location of Atlantis on a planet named Lanthea, which was abandoned by the ancients, who are an advanced race of people 10,000 years ago, after being forced to flee from the powerful enemies named Wraith. And when we talk about lost cities and ancient worlds, of course, we would have to mention Indiana Jones. The video game series made Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis in 1992, where players follow Indiana Jones on his global search for the legendary sunken city, while dealing with Nazis who seek to use the powers of Atlantis for warfare. Now, throughout the journey, he is accompanied by Sophia Hapgood, a young woman who gave up archaeology to become a psychic. And if we're looking at games, we also have Assassin's Creed's Odyssey, who talks of Atlantis as an ancient and advanced hidden Asu civilization. The ruins of the city can be found beneath the island of Thera, Greece, at the bottom of the Aegean Sea. And there's even a downloadable content expansion pack, also named The Fate of Atlantis, that players can download and fight mystic creatures while uncovering the mysteries of Atlantis. However, these are just a few examples of Atlantis in pop culture, and there's definitely plenty more. Atlantis is malleable. It is a symbol of ancient wisdom, technological utopia, spiritual salvation, or even alien origin. It is so full of mysteries that it gives the city an endless possibility to be everything. And just like the Bermuda Triangle we talked about in the previous episode, the Lost City offers limitless possibilities for the creative mind. So why is Atlantis, a city that is lost decades ago, still enduring till present day? Well, it endures not because of what it is or was, but because of what it represents and symbolizes. See, a warning of how human desires and powers in the wrong hands could ruin a nation and a city, no matter who they are, even if they are descendants of gods. It depicts a hauntingly familiar scene of how nature and the climate changes the world is currently facing could affect the sea levels and political decay, and could swallow any civilization and dreams of a perfect utopia. It also in itself exists as a mystery in human history that humanity longs to solve. Maybe all the search and hunt for Atlantis isn't just about looking for proof of a speculated lost city, but for a piece of ourself and human civilization, which has been buried deep, waiting to be discovered. So was Atlantis real? Maybe not in geography, but certainly in the realm of imagination. It is more alive than ever. But whether it is a memory of the Minoan civilization, a philosopher's parable, or a sunken dream of humanity's potential, Atlantis reflects the best and worst potentials. That just like Atlantis, we may rise, we may fall, but we may also be remembered. What do you think of Atlantis? Do you believe in any of the theories? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for sticking around on this episode of The Forbidden Records. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like and subscribe if you haven't. I would really appreciate it. And let me know if you have any mysteries of this world or topics that you would like me to talk about in a future episode, and I might talk about it. So let me know down in the comments below as well. Until then, stay curious, stay searching. See ya!